I'm going to call the BUHS number 6 meeting to order at 7:11 for today, October 15th, 2018. And we'll start as we usually do with Clerk's report. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from October 1st?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes? Yes, Bob.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that under the committee reports, WSESU Finance, it says the diversity coordinator will not be on the district-wide budget. I believe it's the supervisory union budget, because the district-wide would be just BUHS, BAMS, and
The Career Center.
Career Center.
Okay. Anything else for corrections, changes, deletions from the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions?
Abstain.
I'm abstaining as well. I think for the same reason we were both absent. Okay, so are there any communications that have come before board members tonight?
One in receipt of the one I forwarded.
Okay.
I did not send it to any of you, just Ben and Lyle.
And that's been since our last meeting? Because I got one, but I thought it was before.
Yeah, no,
last
this is since our last meeting because it was sent to me with the specific request that I
Okay.
forwarded to the rest of the board.
Okay, great. Any other communications? Anything else? Okay. So is there, should we approve the minutes? So we're done with Clerk's report. Recognition of groups and/or individual visitors, and we have a couple of visitors. Spoon, are you here to speak on anything in particular, or are you just watching?
Just watching.
Excellent, thank you. And Ray, maybe you could introduce your visitor to the board meeting that's not normally here. Fortunately, she doesn't have a name tag, but, and then I thought we would just bump up the new business, your presentation to now, so.
Sure. Thanks for confirming that earlier this week.
Yeah.
A few days ago. Sure. With me tonight is Doran, the Career Center guidance counselor for us here. And Ricky asked a month ago,
Yeah.
about the Career Center, a little overview of the Career Center itself. So I tried to confirm with Ricky last week because he was absent at the last board meeting. So I'll get that confirmed with Barb. So Ann and I are just going to share a little information with you, fairly quick, don't want to keep you too long, but about the Career Center and what we do and how Ann approaches interested students.
Well, and before you start, I just want to say too that I know that early in the beginning of the school year, we talked a lot about the Career Center and how do students access it and things like that, and maybe it was over the summer. And I thought it would be good for all of us to understand that in case we get questions from the community, but also because it's on BCTV for all the people at home who watch to have a better understanding of how to access the Career Center, whether they're Brattleboro or not, so.
Great.
All right, I'll turn it back over to you.
So being passed around to you is something what I shared with our regional advisory board. Our current Career Center programs are listed there. The area that they are in, the length, whether it's a semester or a full year, and then how many minutes, whether it's one block, 2 hours, or in some cases, licensed nursing assistants, that would be 160 minutes or 2 blocks. So at the top, you will see Pre-Tech Exploratory and Pre-Tech Foundations. Those are classes normally for 9th and 10th graders, just to give them an overview of the Career Center, what it is. During the exploratory class, they get to visit all of our programs and see what they are for 3 days at a time. So they get to experience those along with lab activities within the curriculum for exploratory. The Pre-Tech Foundations class is a class that Tom Fagella teaches. We have taken over from what was a YCAP, changed it to Foundations for our construction and architecture, where the kids will learn a little bit about manufacturing and construction within his class. Same thing normally for 9th and 10th graders. And then we have the business systems classes. Right now we have business management and leadership. It's a full year, 120 minutes, 2 hours long. And then 2 business classes that are semester in length that are 80 minutes long. Hospitality, that program, if you remember, was cut last year. And we have an introductory to culinary and then a culinary arts 2 for the kids that were in culinary last year to continue on. And those are both a semester in length for 80 minutes at this time. Under arts and communications, we have a circus class that meets off campus at the Parks and Rec right now, taught by Aaron Lovett Sherman. And students could also take advanced circus and do a circus capstone. Those are all a semester in length for 80 minutes. We have an intro to dance, that's a semester length for 80 minutes. And then a dance program that is 1 year in length, also for 80 minutes, and then a possible capstone. Acting and directing, also taught by Bob Kramsky. Acting 1 year, directing the opposite year, full year class for 80 minutes. And also in arts and communications, we have filmmaking and digital editing. Those are 120 minutes. We have a level 1 and a level 2. Protective services, we have criminal justice, taught by Sergeant Lee Lassiter of the Montague Police Department. That's a year long for 80 minutes. And we have EMR and fire service, taught by captains at the Brattleboro Fire Department. EMR is a semester for 80 minutes and fire is a full year for 80 minutes, 1 block. Health careers, we have a number of biomedical classes that are taught by shared staff at the high school in the Career Center. Michelle Hood, Dan Braden, and Sue Vincent, thank you. And also Kathleen Forrester for us. So those list the classes, those are all 80-minute classes, semester length, with the exception of a new program that we're getting the Board of Nursing approval right now and equipment in for licensed nursing assistant, where they'll be taught in the spring semester. A lot of those students right now are taking human growth and development and medical terminology. So, and we'll be in the process of setting up clinicals at nursing homes and the hospital, also at B&H. On the back of the sheet, engineering and technical systems, we have construction and architecture, levels 1 and 2, a full year, 120 minutes. Electricity and speaker building, a full year, and then electronics, photonics, or fiber optics, which is a full year. Engineering and manufacturing, again, a full year for 120 minutes, levels 1 and 2. Automotive, 1 and 2, full year, 120 minutes. And then forestry and natural resources, same thing, a full year, 120 minutes. Any questions on the courses and programs that we offer right now?
Some of the health career ones, some
Sure.
of those are also dual enrollment courses as well, yes?
A lot of the classes have dual enrollment. We probably have, 15 dual
At
enrollment
least, yeah.
classes at the Career Center?
Business
Anyway.
classes, yeah. majority.
Electricity, manufacturing,
Oh, nice.
a number of dual enrollment classes, and might have some of that information
Yeah,
on there also. Other questions? Yes, Sean?
Yeah, this looks like an unbelievably good list. I was just kind of wondering about interest and subscription. Are there any ones that are really a highlight? Would it be appropriate to talk about?
Sure.
yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, there just certainly are trends and sometimes it ebbs and flows, but by and large, I think the programs that are the most popular right now are our criminal justice program by far, largely because of the content. It's you know, lots of students that are interested in forensics and a la CSI and sort of the interesting aspects of the criminal justice profession, and our instructor who brings, you know, his knowledge from the night before into that classroom. The emergency medical responder class, I'd say most definitely our biomedical program, which is now in its 5th year, has really taken off, and students are actually following the sequence through and taking all 4 of the classes. I would say those are probably the most popular, though circus arts has gotten to be more popular and full over the course of the probably 8 or 9 years that we've had that program. It sort of depends a little bit on the scheduling, and I know that that's something we're taking a close look at, and how students are able to fit certain programs into their schedules. So that is something we're gonna be investigating.
Level 1 forestry and engineering and manufacturing doing great this year. Those started out full also, the level 1s this year, so that was good for a 120-minute class. Most career centers work on either half day or a full day, 120 minutes or 240 minutes throughout the state. We're in a unique situation here at Brattleboro where a lot of our sending schools, besides our attached school, BUHS, come in and they stay for the day. So they don't, because of our district policy, the students are also able to take classes at BUHS if they're a career center student for a small sum for each class while they're here rather than traveling back to Twin Valley or to Leland and Gray. Hinsdale kids go back. A couple of Bellows Falls kids stay. The others go back
Most of them.
also. So a lot of them, when they get here, they tend to stay here. So we're just talking about making the classes more accessible for some of them so that it could better mesh with our schedule. So some of them are changing to 80 minutes that we have. Some will remain 120. Some will go for a level 1 for 80 minutes for a full year. Things that we're looking at right now, and then the level 2 to 120 minutes. And a couple of them have to be really at least a couple of hours where they're traveling off campus or setting up machinery that may take a couple hours to get set up to begin with. So it's kind of a delicate balance to see what works and what doesn't work to meet the needs of the kids. I know Steve was gracious enough there a few years ago when I spoke with him to adjust the high school schedule from 75 minutes to 80 minutes so we could meet our minimum anyway at the State Department so that we can actually get credit for the kids being here. And I think so far this year we've had a pretty good relationship trying to make things work between the Career Center and the attached high school also there to communicate better. Yes, Woody?
Up until recently, we've had a horticulture program, and it was not particularly well subscribed over the last couple of years, and we do have the infrastructure for that. Any thoughts about whether that will reappear or any perceived demand for it?
Well, we have had thoughts, but we haven't thought in detail of that this year. But yes, that was, a pretty good program a few years ago, and it dropped down. And knowing, covering with a RAB that we can take 10th graders also. Normally it was 11th and 12th, but if the sending school wants to send us and agree to send us those 10th graders, and we receive the request from them, we can take them. At that time, we get credit for them. But again, it gets back to what all of you are dealing with Act 46, schools that want to keep their own kids there and not give them up to here and have us get credit for them, which is unfortunate, but we're trying to do what's best for the kid, whether that means stay at their high school or be here. We just want every kid to make sure that they leave our establishment, whether it's BUHS High School or the Career Center, with an option. Either they can go ahead and get their vocation in college and decide what they're going to do and be prepared for that, or at least they have some skills so they can get out in the workforce and earn a decent living and make a car payment and a mortgage payment when they leave us, and then may go on to further study after that. But there shouldn't be any in between where they have a general background and they don't have the skill to make a living.
I'm going to just pass these flyers around. Ray did ask that I just discuss briefly the orientation process. I think that may have been a question. So my job largely is to act as sort of the point person for students who are looking at the Career Center. I represent the Career Center, but then I also work very closely with all of our sending schools. I work largely with the counseling departments at each of the schools. And a big piece of that work is to try to work with our students as they're entering and making sure as much as we can that it's a good match for our students. And so a big piece of what I do is outreach. We do mailings. We'll probably be starting to revise this again because we're no doubt changing the schedule. So this is sort of an annual update. In addition to mailings, I work with all the schools on orienting students. So it's different with our sending schools because they're small. So we can literally bring all the sophomores over to the Career Center on a bus, and the students are allowed to tour all the programs, and then I work pretty closely on students who are really interested in coming back for follow-up visits in programs that are of strong interest. Those students can then go on and apply, which is important because we don't have those students in our system, so the application includes information on the student, their transcripts, their credit updates, interest information, that sort of thing. For the BUHS students, it's a little different in that it's such a big school that it's obviously challenging to tour all the sophomores through, but we do a lot of outreach. We do work with the middle school. The middle school kids do come in and they do mention that tour as a reason to sign up for classes, or they'll remember it. We actually have benefited from the Career Exploratory class that has a number of 9th and 10th grade students and kids where they're able to sample different courses and really get into a program on a few-week basis, are making decisions based on that firsthand experience. I do assemblies around scheduling. I work with the counseling department really closely on parent outreach meetings. I work hand in hand with Gina Honorato, the Director of Counseling, on the schedule, so that we work pretty closely on making sure that when requests come in, that those requests are sort of balanced with their other courses, so that kids aren't facing conflicts that might not allow them to take Career Center classes. I'm always offering students the opportunity to visit classes. I think that's the most important way for a student to really see what we're all about. So I'm continually putting that word out to students. And our teachers, when they do receive a list of requests or applications, they are, starting this past year, doing more interviews with students, calling them in during free periods, and using it as just a chance to outline their program, get a little sense of who the kids are, and if they think that it might be a good match, sort of guide them in their decision-making process. So that's kind of a high-level overview of how we recruit students for the Career Center.
So we want to make sure the students understand what is involved in the program. As you can see, some of the programs are for 2 hours all year for 2 years. And make sure that that's truly what they want to be in. So that we have those interviews when possible, so that the instructor can actually meet with the student to let them know before they commit to a program.
Is the a course taken at a Career Center, at the Career Center account at BUHS and in the semi schools,
Yes.
so there's no conflict there?
Yeah.
Also,
so they
another.
all carry. They all do carry academic credit. Most of them carry some sort of embedded academic credit. If the student completes, say, the 2 years of automotive, they'll get an embedded science, for example. But they do all carry high school elective credit, and that is something that a big part of my job is working with the various counselors to ensure that the students are meeting their credit requirements, as well as being able to work in their other academic requirements, or if they're college bound, to ensure that they're able to get those courses in as well.
Yeah, another question I had was, Ray, you had mentioned about students going straight out in the world or going to college. You have a sort of a breakdown, and also for the kids that are not doing college or additional education wherever, of what job opportunities are like, because I would think and hope that local employers would be hungry for.
Yeah, jobs. I can speak from my former position as co-op coordinator here, part-time. Phone was kind of ringing off the hook, as you know, in this economy, just looking for people for anything. But the big thing is to try to get those industry before their needs are to buy into the programs and make a commitment, such as like a GS Precision to buy into the engineering and manufacturing program, and say that they'll take 3, 4, half a dozen kids a year in a co-op position. Because it's just a great opportunity for those companies to review a student like yourself. They said they're gonna have Russ in there for 6 months with no commitment. Is Russ showing up on time? Is he sober every time? Is he calling when he's not gonna be there without a commitment, rather than having them place an ad? And if you are, the student feels comfortable in that door to go ahead and ask for the application, or the employer asking them for the application, rather than graduating and the students are out for 6 months. They're kind of tentative to go and knock on a door and at a company and ask, do you have an application for employment? But if they're already.
Well, that's right. I mean, I'm the internship advisor at the economics department in Mass. I'm a little familiar with that, but I'm wondering about, that's the theory, but how many kids then do get jobs if they're going straight out in the fields where they've been trained? Do you have a sense of that?
As co-op coordinator, as far as keeping the stats on that afterwards, I did not, but I know that a majority of the kids that I placed were offered positions there with employment. Some of them may not, if they didn't included further schooling. Like we have a student right now that's co-oping at the police department, so it's as a great experience, but I'm sure they'll want some experience from them, whether it's a degree or go to work at the sheriff's department for a while before they're employed, but it's a great experience. Yeah, we've had a few former students work out very well, and over my years as a co-op coordinator, both here in New Hampshire, that are actually CEOs of some major companies now. And they didn't know what they were going to do with their life while they were in high school, whether they could get out of high school. So they have the potential to do it all, I guess.
A large number of our students do go on to college, post-secondary of some form, I think particularly with the emphasis on the dual enrollment opportunities, and I know that that's something that our teachers talk about and encourage. We offer industry-recognized credentials in most of our programs, and that's an area that we're really, really trying to discuss with kids and parents so that they have an understanding of why taking a Career Center class, especially if it's offering a credential, a nationally recognized credential, can mean money and opportunity, so that that people can see that advantage. I think that's kind of a new buzzword for us, even though we've offered credentials for a long time. But I think really talking more loudly about the importance of credentials, that when students leave, even if they're not sure yet what they want to do, to have those on their resume, along with those college credits, which they have for life, so that 5 years down the road, 4 years down the road, that they can still be at an advantage, sort of a competitive advantage. And I think that's a message that we just continually have to get out to people, that there is value to this type of education, if nothing else, for the experience and the awareness of whether this is something you want to pursue after high school. We were just at a presentation on Friday with a gentleman who was talking about the need for that competitive edge. And I think that's really something that we can offer, but it's about messaging and having parents hear that, how important it is to have those extra credentials, which means more money.
Most of you may have heard of the governor's initiative, the 75-25. Is 75% of the students will have further education or an industrial recognized credential by 2025. So those are some of the things that we offer within our programs so that they're ready when they leave here. And some of them may go directly into an apprenticeship program, electrician and plumber also.
So the best is the partnership with the high school, to be able to offer a strong academic program as well as the technical. And I think that's the beauty of the state of Vermont in terms of how we offer career and tech ed, and also just this district. Having a kid of my own who went through the Career Center years ago, who was able to access filmmaking and all of the top academic classes, that was a real advantage for him, I think. So kudos to our work and all of your work in terms of keeping us going forward. I'll just leave these are our catalogs. All of this is also online, so I don't want to bombard anybody, but if people want to take a look at the descriptions of courses, that's in this catalog as well.
Any other questions for Ann or Ray?
Thank you for your
Great.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you both for
Thank
coming.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Stay if you want. We don't have
Let's see how fast you raise.
That's right.
to go fix my boiler.
I was going to say, you want to do it?
All right, so is there a motion to go into consent agenda?
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Moving and seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so let's start with finance, building, and transportation.
Has not met since the last board meeting, but is scheduled for the 18th, which is this Thursday at 8 o'clock in central office.
Excellent, thank you. WSESU Finance Committee.
Finance Committee has not met since last meeting.
Planning and policy.
Planning and Policy met this evening. We discussed and heard a basic presentation on our STD prevention program from the nurse. We briefly discussed our playoff standards for sports and decided not to address that policy any further. And we had a discussion about the Black Lives Matter flag and are expecting that to be on the agenda in the next meeting.
Excellent, thank you. Teacher Curriculum Committee.
Has not met.
BAMS Committee.
Has not met.
WRCC Committee.
Has not met.
Okay. Is there anything else? All right, is there anything else to come before consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve consent agenda?
Second?
Moved and seconded? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so let's move to administrative reports, and let's let Ray keep talking, and we'll start right at this end of the table.
Kept it short.
There you go.
A couple of things. I just wanted to let you know that a couple weeks ago, a number of our health career students attended Bandages and Beyond at Brattleboro Memorial Hospital. It was a presentation from 6 to 8 p.m. on, I believe it was September 25th, that the kids went to a number of the students and their instructor. Michelle Hood was there, Kathleen Forrester, Tom Yon, I think Paul Cohen made it also. Yeah, so the BMH gave a nice presentation as to what type of employment are possible at the hospital besides a doctor and a nurse. So it was a great presentation for the kids to see, and the kids came back speaking a lot about, about the different careers, from security to maintenance to oncology, whatever it may be. So that was a great evening. Last Thursday, a number of our girls that I mentioned to you traveled to VTC to participate in the Women Can Do conference. It was a little wet, raining all day Thursday, but it was a great event. They had workshops inside for the young ladies and outside under tents. And these were mainly the conference to just excite girls and let them experience non-traditional careers there at Vermont Technical College. So over 400 girls from Vermont participated. We sent a busload up. So it was a great day. And actually Ann and Joyce Rathbun did most of the organization for that. So kudos to them. This week, Thursday, forestry classes will be competing in the annual FFA Soils and Judging Competition, also at VTC. The students will be evaluating 4 parcels of land for its soils potential in agriculture, forestry, and development use. So they'll be doing everything from perk tests to water levels, etc. And normally the kids do pretty well. We've won it a number of years and placed second a number of years, especially compared to some of the other career centers that spend a lot more time on it than we have to spend on it. So they do extremely well. So that's a great job that our forestry instructor, Errol Nelson, does for that. Construction students are now fully registered with the National Center for Construction Education Research and are currently beginning their work on their national credentials for that, NCCER, Industrial Recognized Credentials. And Construction 2 students are also earning credentials in forklift training. They're doing that right now, also completing that. And that's all I have tonight. So so I'm done talking, so.
Thank you. All right, let's move down to the high school.
I'll yield my time to Ray.
Been a busy day.
I'd like to pass out our latest newsletter. This may actually be one of the final newsletters that we do in print. We're going to actually send out a survey to parents asking them if they prefer to get it in print or if they prefer to get it online, so stay tuned for that. Our YATS group, Youth and Adults Transforming Schools Together, they kicked off their second year. They attended a 2-day conference in Montpelier to learn a little bit more about how YATS works and to learn a little bit about how do you facilitate and create change within a high school. Last year was the first year of YATS, and that group was very successful. They did a lot of work with the faculty and with students around proficiency-based learning, and we'll see what they come up with this year. They've begun the initial steps of asking students and faculty what they think is important in the school. And I want to give credit to Ben Lord for his work running this class for the second year. He's joined this year by Michelle Hood, who will take over. Ben's taking a leave for the second half of the year, and so Michelle will take over the course. So she's done a great job of getting to know the kids and being present where she can. Steve Rice reports that 20 band members and 4 course members were selected to participate in the Valley District Concert and Jazz Choir. That will happen on November 16th and 17th here. If you get a chance, it's a great chance to see some incredible music on those 2 days. And we always look forward to hosting that event every year. This is our third week of Provision 2, where we've offered free lunch to our free breakfast and free lunch to all of our students. And I asked Justin McCardle, the new manager from Fresh Picks, to give me some data, and he did. And I have data just comparing the week before Provision 2 and the week after. He doesn't have data from last week, but he'll get that to me. The week before we went to Provision 2, we served 845 breakfasts, 712. That same period of time, same breakfast, the following week was 1,112. So we had a nice increase there. And then for lunch, we had 2,256 lunches served for that week. And then the week we began Provision 2, 2,654. So we're seeing some increase in cafeteria usage. We're seeing some students access that great benefit. And I want to thank the board again for their support of Provision 2. And we'll continue to monitor those numbers. What I'm told is those numbers will continue to rise. We'll hit a plateau at some point, but we're still in that point where we're starting to see numbers rise as more students and more families become aware of it and access it. It's been great. The rollout from the high school side has been pretty smooth. I got to give a lot of credit to Justin and his staff for the work they've done. More often than not, a student will come with an incomplete lunch. They'll let them know what they need to make that lunch a complete lunch, and they'll take care of that. And they've done it respectfully and done a nice job. Friday and Saturday, we had our fall play. It was an evening of comedies. While the crowd was small, the play was very well executed and very well done. Bob Kramsky and the cast did a great job in that play. Fall sports is wrapping up this week. Right now, we have 2 teams in the playoff. Boys soccer will have a playoff game depending on how they do tomorrow against MAU, and then their next game on Thursday. That will determine whether or not we host a playoff game or whether we travel on the road. Obviously, we're hoping to host a game. The boys soccer team has done a great job this year. Field hockey is also heading to the playoffs. They did not make it last year. They're this year. I want to give kudos to coaches Cheryl Liberdoni and Kelly Markle for the job they've done as well. Last Friday, Emma Allen and Rio Danes, 2 of our students, along with Tessa Anders and Ben Sauer, 2 of our teachers, hosted a voter registration table. And they reported that they did get some new voters to register. One of the things that they've also noted is that now when you register when you get your license, you can register at that time. So there's less of a need, but they still felt that was a useful activity. And so glad that those students and teachers see that and are encouraging participation among our new voters. Finally, on November 13th, we'll be hosting a school safety awareness night. That's going to be in concert with the Brattleboro Police Department with Mark Kerrigan and Chief Bukasi from the Fire Department. We'll spend some time answering questions for parents about school safety. We'll do a quick overview of our ALICE system that we use internally. And then Officer Kerrigan will talk a little bit about police response, and Chief Bukowski will talk about how the fire department works into this as well. That's going to be November 13th, 6:30 to 8 in the multipurpose room. We encourage you to attend. It's a really good evening. And then as the year goes on, we're hoping to do more parent education evenings on various topics, but this seemed to be a good first one to start with. So we hope to see you there. Any questions?
Great,
Thank you.
Let's move down to bands.
Hi, everyone. Well, it's been pretty quiet the last few weeks since we last met. Very limited major school events. Early October, pretty quiet. We did have a staff meeting with Chief Bukowski, Captain Mark Kerrigan, and Assistant Fire Chief Lenny Howard, and kind of went over SU-wide plans for emergency preparedness. They went over best practices when it comes to hostile intruders and those kind of things, and it's really engaging and excellent information, and very happy with our relationship that the SU has established with the local fire and police and they've been highly engaged in the local school system, more than I ever remember, just coming and trying to reach out and sharing information with us, which has been really, really great. Obviously schools and fire and police are evolving their practices around those situations that we might encounter, hopefully don't, but could encounter based on learning from other experiences throughout the country. So been happy with that. Let's see, there's a parent evening tomorrow night called the BAMS Community Connections. That's organized by Junie Pereira, our parent liaison. BAMS Community Connections, I think they're going to do like monthly meetings, and Junie does a really, really good job trying to encourage parents to participate and get involved in our talking about the life of a middle school parent and student. So that's tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. As Mr. Perrin mentioned, fall sports are wrapping up in the next week or so, and it's been a good season weather-wise. Interestingly, I remember fall sports always being like really cold a lot of the time. It was a pretty warm season for the majority of the season. Even 2 weeks ago, we were having really hot days, and so I think they've been pretty fortunate with the weather for the most part, and the kids always have a great time, and I'm a big supporter, former athletic director and coach myself. There's this thing called the Margaret Waddington Leadership Initiative, which is kind of in our state for leaders in the state of Vermont. And Tom Doughton, our assistant principal, is headed to that next week. So happy to send him off. It's a great training. Mr. Perrin also went through it, and you're still in it, right?
Just finished.
Yeah, just finished. So Mr. Doughton's beginning that, and one of our science teachers, Matt Betts, is working on his leadership internship. So he's going to fill in for a couple of days while Mr. Doughton's out and kind of help with administrative topics that come up throughout that week. Our first dance is November 2nd, so it'll be a Halloween dance, and I'm sure the kids will be very excited for that. And, we always look forward to that. And I think that's all I had. Any questions?
Actually, I had a question for Steve that I forgot about when it was his turn. I noticed on the thing, the opt-out for military recruitment. I'm just curious, how many of those do we get? About?
Probably 15 or 20 a year.
Great. Yeah, central office.
All right. So I had met, as many of you are aware, with the WSESU board to review the superintendent evaluation. And a couple of suggestions were to create some sort of informational handout for you that included information from all schools. So I've sent a draft to all the school principals that will include things like student numbers, free and reduced numbers, homeless, DCF referrals, IEPs, 504s, etc. That's presently being populated. So I'm hoping by next meeting I'll have a hard copy of that so that you have an overview of things. I will not be giving hard copy every month. I don't think that, unless there is a significant change in something, I would prefer not to every month be handing out, or every meeting be handing out paper, but possibly every other month with an update. The other request from the Superintendent Evaluation Committee from your feedback was for me to give you more information about my community reach out. So I'm going to talk with you a little bit this evening just about the number of meetings that I've attended that were pretty much non-school or school and another organization related. So Blue Cross Blue Shield Outreach is a group I sit with. We meet 4 to 5 times a year, and it's how Blue Cross Blue Shield can integrate with area schools. Blue Cross Blue Shield offers what we call mini grants, and different schools all throughout WSESU have gotten those grants for different wellness activities. So I have met with them. Just to continue on a theme from both Mr. Parent and Mr. Lyman, I've met with the first responders, both with Brattleboro Town and, excuse me, all first responders, updating our emergency response plans. This is the most I've talked, I'm sorry, in 2 weeks, and obviously I'm losing my voice here. One of the things that we had talked about was first responders having parent meetings so the parents can, they won't know exact plans, but we'll be able to talk with to first responders and know that we are working very closely, updating plans. And as both Mr. Parent and Mr. Lyman said, first responders have been very, very willing to work with us, come in, do some tours. Have you thought about this? They will be meeting with parent groups with all of our schools, but also joining when we do drills, joining, walking around the outside, looking for things and then giving us feedback. So I've met both a number of times with first responders. The Community Equity Council. Community Equity Council is a group of people from throughout our community and surrounding communities looking at how we're attracting a wider group of people to come to our community to work. As I said, it includes people from church groups, from businesses, town management, police force, just a very wide range of community social organizations as well. So I've met with them. The Regional Advisory Board, which Ray talked about a little bit, which area sending schools meet with Career Center representatives and look at what we're actually offering at the Career Center and other ways that we may want to reach out, be more inclusive, just ideas from other schools of how we can work more effectively with them. And let's see, the Diverse Workforce Committee, another committee that I sit on. I represent obviously the school district, but there are also people from the select board, the town manager, again the police force, BDCC, and how are we attracting a more diverse workforce to this area. And one of the things that we will be doing are taking some recruitment trips. I will go probably this winter. I'm going to probably try to recruit Steve to go with me to see if we can get people, teachers, to come to WSESU. Let's see, what else? And Southeast superintendents, we meet monthly. A couple of things that will be of interest to you. we recognize that we need to work together as Windham County. And so we'll be making a trip to Massachusetts where they have centers, and they are able to use that sort of as a local rather than sending people out of district. Even though it might not be in your district, it's still considered a local school where students with very high needs can get some of their needs met. So we'll be taking a field trip to Massachusetts to see how that's come together and evolved. We're discussing a Windham County calendar, so that obviously we know that it has to, all of our sending schools have to have the same calendar so that the Career Center is in line with all the sending schools. But we're looking at, because of the heat this past fall, we're looking at, are there ways to start after Labor Day and get out earlier in June. The only way to do that would be to eliminate one of the two breaks and make maybe one break. So we're looking at a lot of different options. That will certainly not happen next year. It would be another year out, but that's something that we've started to discuss. And I was elected treasurer of that group. I think it's a double-edged sword. So those have been my recent meetings, community outreach meetings.
Thank you, thank you. There's no student council members here, and I don't have anything, so that's it for administrative reports. Looks like on the agenda there's nothing listed under unfinished business unless there's something that we're not aware of. Don't see anything. Anybody have anything unfinished? And under new business, we already had our overview from WRCC. Is there anything else for new business? I don't see anything. Anybody see? No? Okay. So I guess is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? No? Excellent. We are adjourned. See you all in a couple weeks.
I do.